occupy movement. Originally I was headed for Wall Street, but when I saw that occupations were springing up all across the country, I was compelled to return to my home state and fight for justice where my family lives and where my children were born. Recently, while I was surfing the web, I came across some interesting statistics which I would like to share with you here today. Many of us may already be aware of these facts, but this is information we should all consider together. I believe it helps to put our struggle in perspective. We call ourselves the 99%, and we oppose the greed of the 1%. But who are those people? After all, most of us will never meet those who make up the mysterious 1%. First of all, how do we define the wealthiest 1%? In other words, how much money do they actually have? Well, it seems that the minimum amount one would have to make is $380,350 a year to be at the bottom rank of the 1%. But what we need to realize is that the disparity between the top earners within the 1% is much wider than the difference between those who earn $380,350 and the rest of us. Consider that at least the first 14 people on the Forbes list of the country's richest people are billionaires. Who are they? Well, Bill Gates of Microsoft ranks first at $59 billion. Warren Buffett of Berkshire Hathaway is still ranked second. Berkshire Hathaway has vast investments in banks, insurance companies, railroads, and restaurants. Oracle founder Larry Ellison has $33 billion. The oil barons, Charles and David Koch, have $25 billion apiece and rule over the second largest private corporation in the country, an empire of oil refineries and pipelines. They are also America's leading funders of the climate disinformation machine. In fact, David Koch believes that global warming is actually good for humanity and has said, and I quote, "The Earth will be able to support enormously more people because a far greater land area will be available to produce food." Walmart heirs Christie, Jim, and Alice Walton have $24.5 billion, $21.1 billion, and $20.9 billion respectively. I don't think we need to review their attitude towards their employees. Hedge fund investor George Soros has $22 billion, and Sheldon Adelson, the casino czar of Las Vegas Sands Corporation, has $21.5 billion. Ironically, Facebook owner Mark Zuckerberg is now one of the 1%. He added $10.6 billion to his fortune, now ranked 14 on the Forbes list at $17.5 billion. When we consider the vast disparity between the lifestyles of such individuals and our own, we have to ask how we can ever reach the hearts and minds of such people. We may have the opportunity to dodge out of their way as their limos cross the street, or to serve them if we happen to work in a very exclusive dining establishment or health spa. Maybe we'll get a chance to clean their pools, or work as a landscaper on the grounds of their fine mansions. But we will never be their peers. We will never be invited to go out to dinner with them, never be their neighbors, or be invited into their homes. Did you realize that the richest 1% of Americans now possess 40% of our nation's wealth? Add to that the corporate class, which makes up about 19% of our population and possesses 53% of the wealth, and we realize that the richest 20% of Americans now own 93% of our nation's wealth. The rest of us, amounting to roughly 80% of the population, you know, the working class, possess around 7% of the nation's wealth. Now, to me, that sounds more like an aristocratic feudal system than a democracy. Consider that the wealthiest 1% of Americans take home almost a quarter of the total national income these days, when 35 years ago they took home just 9%. Their share of the national income has nearly tripled in 3 decades. We have to ask if this occurred by deliberate design when you see that the 1% are absorbing more of the nation's total income than at any time since the 1920s, and we know what resulted from that. Our first great American Depression. Consider that the richest 1% of Americans own half of the country's stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, and that the least wealthy percent of Americans own only 0.5. 1/2% of these investments. Consider that the richest 1% of Americans carry only 5% of the nation's personal debt. The 9% which rank below them financially owe about 22%, which shows that the rest of us, 90% of us, are saddled with 73% of the nation's total debt. Who is responsible for that? We are. So how can we fix it? What can the common American do about it? I have considered this question for some time and put some thoughts and ideas down in a document named in honor of the Declaration of Independence, which I humbly call the Declaration of the American People, which seeks to clarify why we should dissolve the political commitments with a federal government dominated in policy by multinational corporations, just as Thomas Jefferson outlined why the American colony should separate from the tyranny of the English monarchy. Please look it up on YouTube. Thank you.
Hi, I just want to say that if we don't fix this country now, the country will be done forever. Just like in 1923, when we had the Great Depression, the same thing is happening now, and people need to wake up. We need to end the Fed, end the fractional banking system. We need to stop the wars. Stop the wars. We need to investigate everything that the government says, because they don't tell us the truth, and they're controlled. They're controlled by much higher people. The president doesn't run the country. We need to investigate everything. We need to stop the wars, the illegal wars in Libya and Iraq and Afghanistan. We need to investigate 9/11. We need to know everything. And we need to end the Fed and get sound money back. We need to be on a reserve currency where we have gold backing our money, or else the money is worthless. That's why we're in debt, because the money is worthless right now, because they're printing paper. If we print paper, it's counterfeit. The Federal Reserve is a private bank. They're not a government organization. They print money, and what happens? They put us in debt, but they're not supposed to be a government organization, and they're printing paper. We need to stop this. We need to end the Fed. We need to get Wall Street out of government, and we need to get sound money back.
Hey, how everybody doing? My name is Gerald President, and I just want to read a real quick statement to you gentlemen. The aim is to achieve long-term or accelerated economic growth in poor countries by restructuring the economy and reducing government intervention. Structural adjustment programs include currency devaluation, managed balance of payments, reduction of government services through public spending cuts, budget deficit cuts, reducing tax on high earners, reducing inflation, wage suppression, privatization, lower tariffs on imports.
No politicians, no politicians, no politicians.
And tighter monetary policy, increased freight trade, cuts in social spending, and business deregulation. Governments are also encouraged to force to reduce their role in the economy by privatizing state-owned industries, including health sector, and opening the economies to foreign competition. Hey, I understand this guy's being very rude, but what I want you to understand, what I just read you was the United States economic policy. It is the policy of the United States government to ship out the jobs through NAFTA, CAFTA, and all our global trade agreements. What you need to understand is this is the policy, people, to privatize all state-owned industries. You have a governor right now privatizing the entire school system. Hey, sir, I'm going to ask you one last time. Will you please stop that? I don't need that, sir. We have... Listen up, people. Listen up. Everything right now they want to do is privatize every industry in America, people. Every industry. They want to make sure this is a third world country, and this is the policy of the United States government pushed through by the International Monetary Fund and our World Bank. We are in a world of trouble, people. We have to fight against these policies of our government. You have a federal government that allows the private bank to loan the money. Until you get rid of a private bank loaning the money to the government, we're going to always stay in this situation, people. We cannot fight against each other. It's a private bank that's loaning money to our government. Every time they borrow money, it destroys our currency. We have to get rid of this private banking system, people. And as long as we have NAFTA, GATT, CAFTA, all these trade agreements, people, they are going to destroy every person's way of living right now in America. For all those kids that's in student debt, you're never going to get out of it, people, because of the interest that's imposed upon you. Everybody whose home is foreclosed is underwater. They're not going to allow us to get out of it. Hey, listen up, people. We have to get rid of this interest on our currency. They want us begging. They want us in these streets fighting. They want us hating against each other. It's the people that's in these buildings that you cannot see. We cannot fight against inanimate objects. A building is an object, people. They are not showing you the bankers who are controlling the policy of the government. And they are being propped up by our military. That's why we have our military in every country on this planet, people. We have to get rid of this interest on the money. Again, this is the policies of the International Monetary Fund, and it's pushed through by our Chamber of Commerce. Why don't you see any of your politicians out here, people? You don't see not one county commissioner, you don't see a state representative, you don't see a state senator. They're not out here supporting us because they are in the bed with these people. We have to fight these, we gotta get rid of all these people. It doesn't matter if you're a Democrat, if you're a Republican, Tea Party, Blue Dog Democrat, Congressional Black Caucus. You don't see these people out here with us because they are fighting for those people's economic interests. They don't believe in what we're doing. That's why they're not out here. Can anybody find a county commissioner? Is there any county commissioners out here? Are there any state reps? That's the problem, people. These people are not fighting for our economic interests. You got to worry about these kids that's graduating right now that's not going to be able to find a job because they just shifted to a third world country out there. It's in China, it's in Asia, Malaysia, Vietnam, Cambodia. Everybody who got on a pair of clothes right now is made in a foreign country. That's the policy of our government. They are not talking about repealing NAFTA. They are not talking about repealing CAFTA. They're not talking about any of these things. You have a president right now talking about increasing free trade through Panama, Colombia, and South Korea. That's going to destroy more jobs, people. That's going to take more jobs out of this country. You have the people right now running for president. They are not addressing your issues. You have economic policies that's geared against everyone that's out here. Every person out here, these policies are destroying your way of living. And until we address the policies, not the people, do not look at the symbol of the Democrat or Republican, people. Do not look at their symbols. It's the policy. They are the same people. They are the same people. It doesn't matter. You thought when we brought President Barack Obama in that he was going to change the policy, change the direction of America. What did he do? He continued the same policies as George Bush. George Bush continued the same policies of President Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton, the one who brought in NAFTA and CAFTA and all these trade agreements. This is who brought it in, people. They're going to play you. They're going to make you think that they're going to benefit you. They're going to pivot to the center and make you think they are going to fight for your economic interests. Just think about all these kids right out here that are in student loan, that have student loans. It's over $1 trillion. He bailed out the banks. Bush bailed out the banks, but Obama